what he was talking about was defenselessness. Now, this idea of turning the other cheek really flies in the face of the human condition. Because the temptation to get somebody back or get revenge or even to become defensive is sometimes so overwhelmingly strong. But when I think about this principle from Jesus Christ, which is turn the other cheek, and how he demonstrated this in his physical life here on earth, he demonstrated what it means to turn the other cheek. And even though this is such a strong message that's echoed throughout not only his teachings, but the teachings of many others, many other spiritual texts talk about this idea of turning the other cheek. And of course, it's associated with weakness. There have been times in my life where somebody did something to me that was so... There have been certain people who did things against me for whatever reason. Maybe they were angry with me about something, or they were trying to have power and control over either me or the situation. And there were times where certain people did things to me, toward me, that were just downright awful. I mean, there's absolutely no excuse for what some of these people did to the extent to which they did. And in many ways, they were seeking revenge. They were seeking to get back because they were angry or they felt hurt. Because, everyone makes mistakes in life, in relationships, in circumstances, at jobs, in friendships, in families. No one is perfect, right? But sometimes I've had some people take it too far with their anger. They're lashing out of their need to have power, or their need for revenge, or their need to make themselves feel better. And there were a couple of times in particular where I really, in fact more than a couple of times, where I knew I had the opportunity to get revenge on them. In fact, the anger and rage I felt during those occasions, there were times where I was this close to going down that road. And I just remember the feeling of just of an overwhelming desire to get revenge, to even the score, to get them back, to make things right the way I saw it. But what I can say is, I thank God, excuse me, I I thank God that something in me said no. Something in me knew that I could not do that. Something in me knew that if I went down that road, there'd be no turning back or something like that. Now, it might feel good in the moment, seemingly, right? To get revenge. You can get a high from it. You get a surge of power. It seems like it's false power, but you feel like you have power. You feel like you're in control. And that can become addictive. And then it can become obsessive. And sooner or later, you might have, police showing up at your door if you keep going with it. And, I jest a little bit, but not totally. But I want to talk about when Jesus says, turn the other cheek, and how I've experienced that, because I certainly had thoughts of wanting revenge. And am I perfect at being defenseless in everyday life? No. I mean, I'm married, okay, so anyone who's married understands the challenges of being married. But what's important here has been for me to not only explore why I have felt the need to defend myself, which really stems from experiences of trauma in my life, feeling like I had to defend myself because of others, right? That's been a first step for me, but getting also back to revenge but choosing between either revenge or turning the other cheek, and why it's so difficult for humans to choose to turn the other cheek, to choose the peaceful route, to choose to not get back at someone who has clearly hurt you or threatened you, or whatever the case may be. And I'm not saying that there are certain steps that sometimes need to be taken. That's where discernment comes in. I do advocate discernment through prayer. If you're on this channel, you're a spiritual seeker like me, because those that are here listening to this are spiritual seekers or have a draw to it. You want to get closer to God, and in your walk to God, you will be guided in situations in what to do or not to do. And it's really about what's going on in the mind. Now, I study A Course in Miracles, and I talk about miracles on this channel. I'm also recently become a student of the Bible. And a miracle state of mind is the most important thing. Can you see this situation correctly? Can you see the calls for love that are going on here? Can you remember God's truth? That only love is real, and everything else is a nightmare, really, of the ego mind. Some people call it the devil or Satan or whatever, but it's really the ego mind, a mind that is not of God. And even though we may have to take certain steps in certain situations, it doesn't mean that you become a doormat and you just don't take the proper steps. You don't do what needs to be done. Sometimes certain things do need to be done. And through guidance, you will know what to do and what not to do. you will know what steps to take and what steps not to take. But you never want to do it from revenge. A vengeful spirit, a vengeful heart will only cause destruction in your life. Because the other thing is, that energy will come back to you at some point. If you put something like that out there, eventually it will come back to you, and it will come back to you hard. There's no getting around that. And that has to do with the laws of the universe. And that's not something that I would monkey around with. I mean, we've all ran into that. We've all ran into that law. Some call it the law of attraction, which is really about the power of our minds. But if we put that kind of negative energy out there, or let alone act on it, it will come back to you, ultimately. So that is why we want to practice taking those steps towards letting go of the need to get revenge, or even score, or get somebody back with a vengeful, angry heart. That's different than a discernment. Sometimes certain steps need to be taken that are necessary, that are practical. But you never want to do with a vengeful heart, because that will destroy you. It will destroy you. So when Jesus says to us, turn the other cheek, this is what he's talking about. Practicing the art of defenselessness, which I know is enormously challenging, but it's really defenselessness in your mind. Where is your mind, brothers and sisters? I have to ask myself that all the time. Where's my mind going? Instead of focusing on revenge, which will ultimately destroy you, use that as an opportunity to ask deeper questions, to go within. Because what you're really wanting is love underneath that, which I feel is the same as God.